Good afternoon to everybody, and thank you for being able to join me today for this webinar. For those of you familiar with Zoom, you'll be familiar with the Q&A on your toolbar. If you're not familiar with Zoom, if you go to the toolbar, you'll see the Q&A option. I'm happy to take questions as we go through this webinar today, so use the Q&A panel and put whatever questions you'd like to ask me as we go along. I'll try and answer as many of them as I can before we get to the end of the session today. So let's have a look at where we are. So today's webinar is all about marketing, as you would expect from me, yeah, but being back in the game. And I think I have got a bit fed up with that word unprecedented. It seems to be being used left, right and centre at the moment, but I think we can all agree these are pretty much unprecedented times. And because of that, it requires adaptation in the marketing approach. Pretty much back in March, the playing field changed completely. And I think over time, we've all learned that the strategies and tactics that brought new clients in at the start of the year may not work as well or at all in these new times. And chances are you may be behind where you want to be. And you're thinking about how you're now going to respond, particularly after last night's announcement that, you know, we're in for the long haul now, confirmed, 6 months, potential recession. Yeah, so we've got to be nimble now with our marketing activity. So our objective really today is to look at how you adapt the marketing plan for your firm to get you through this time and probably adapt, I would suggest, on a pretty much permanent basis. And what I want to do is share with you some of the things that have really worked with our clients over this last 6 months and have kept them in front of potential new business, in front of their existing clients. And hopefully you can walk away from this webinar today with some of those ideas and make good use of them. So let's ask a question first of all. And my question is really, how are you doing? Yeah. If you're familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you'll be familiar with this chart here. And I really hope that at the moment, you know, your physiological needs, what is the bottom layer of Maslow's chart, are being met. We all went back right to the basics in March. I'm sure you'll all remember the fight for the toilet rolls and pasta in Tesco's, which apparently has restarted again today, so joy. But we all retreated back to home, and by sheltering there, most of our safety needs were being satisfied. Obviously, for those of us that remain employed in business, we're one of the lucky ones, and our basic needs are being addressed. But I think my question moves on from here really as to how well and safe is your business. If, like many other professional firms, you may be seeing this pattern of activity, which is clients are slow to pay, some are not paying at all, referrals may have dried up, you seem to be spending your days on a video collaboration platform with a bunch of other folks in little boxes, which sometimes includes their pets. We're here today, aren't we? And I certainly can't remember the last time I had the pleasure of shaking somebody's hand. I have had some face-to-face meetings recently, which has been delightful, but they are far and few between at the moment. And we really thought we were coming out the other side this time last week. And again, yesterday's announcement has perhaps changed that a little bit, become a little bit more hard-hitting. But I think we can all agree that our sense of connection has probably taken a bit of a hit. But let's look at how that compares to how your clients might be feeling right now. So just for a moment, I want you to imagine this is you. So the trauma of this scene where your home's flooded, you've lost everything, your family are homeless effectively, your hierarchy of needs have fallen right back to the bottom of Maslow's chart. And just imagine that you're one of these people. How would you be feeling right now about your family, your finances, what your future will look like? Indeed, some of you might have actually been in this position. But put yourself in those shoes and just imagine how you would feel. Now, while you're thinking about that, I'm going to tell you about an award that we've won. So we won Midlands Business of the Year, which was excellent. delighted that our clients now realise they're dealing with an award-winning marketing agency. You can give us a round of applause if you wish. Does that make me sound impressive? Is that great? I'm guessing that you're thinking my announcement then was really not appropriate and completely tone deaf when you're thinking about the impact of this flood on your life and your family, really miles away from what you're thinking about. And if you were watching the announcement last night on Channel 4, they did exactly this. So we had the announcement from Boris. There was a little bit of debate about it. And they closed the programme off by telling us about the Emmy that they'd won for their reportage of the Hong Kong riots. And I remember thinking to myself, how inappropriate was that message in light of what's just been said? And I think this is a thing we have to be really careful of with any marketing messages that we're delivering now. Because take this image, this is potentially how your clients and potential clients feel right now. Their business could be being destroyed. The last thing we want to do is rock up announcing that we've got an award win, or our tax investigation insurance is now at a 15% discount, or we'd like to review their employment policies for a new fixed monthly retainer fee. And you've got to ask yourself, would you be interested in that right now? And I'm guessing the answer's no. My view on all of this is that actually this is your time to shine. Professional services are now the absolute key worker for any business owner. So now's the time for you to be strong, caring, helpful, and your opportunity really to sell that comfort and security and that trust and confidence. And this is how we have to change our marketing messages now, to adapt to how your clients and potential clients are feeling. We've got to move away from being interesting to be interested in where they are at the moment. We have to be around to solve their problems, offer care, knowledge, help, comfort. And I think all of our marketing messages need to have that level of sincere empathy in everything that we're sending out. And to do that, we have to recognise that the position our clients are in, and they will all be different. Some sectors are thriving, others are surviving, but many are facing what could be some difficult challenges and uncertainty for them going forward. So we need to think about what client skills we should be honing right now. And this is my suggestion. The gestures that we make should be small and not grandiose statements. So the award wins, you can mention it on your social media for sure, but be careful about e-shots, be careful about big banners on the websites. We need to be honing personal meetings, phone calls. I'm sure you're all into this, the video one-on-one. Holding the client's hands and caring, listening, being supportive. And this is really our time to reach out and help. And the more they talk, the more they will trust you. And this becomes more important as we head into what could potentially be a tough recession. Interestingly, Harvard Business Review back in 2010 conducted a year-long study on the performance of about 5,000 public companies before, during and after 3 global recessions. Now, 17% of the companies did not survive the recession. Almost 80% did not regain their pre-recession sales and growth rates even 3 years after the recession had officially ended. And only 9% thrived after the slowdown, doing better financially than they had before the recession started. And in fact, these firms beat their competitors in sales and profits growth by at least 10%. And Harvard Business Review saw that these companies fell into 3 categories. So what they call prevention-focused companies, promotion-focused companies, and pragmatic companies. And just to define that a little bit for you, prevention-focused are organisations that primarily make defensive moves. They are highly focused on cutting costs, avoiding losses, minimising risk. But unfortunately, that direction can lead those companies to aim low and invest little in their innovation, in their services. We also saw burnout rise as management employees tried to do more of the same with less. More centralisation and cost cuts created that distraction. So this real fear for survival. Whereas promotion-focused companies, these businesses invested heavily in offensive moves that provided more opportunity for upside than most of their competition. There were some serious downsides for these companies. Many ignored early warning signs, clients cutting their budgets, for example, and continued to enhance their products and services. And in these promotion-dominated environments, management often paid little attention to the reality and ignored the warnings of their team members. Now, the pragmatic companies, the ones that did really well, balanced, as you would expect, those defensive and offensive moves, which wasn't an easy task, I accept. Most focused on improving their operational efficiency while developing and focusing on new markets and investing in new assets. These companies also reported that improving operational efficiency rather than reducing the number of employees created a more productive and creative work environment. So that leads us on really to how that all fits with anybody's marketing plan. I think the first realisation is that this is a bold new world, and the traditional methods that we would use for marketing have substantially shifted. So we have to consider certain things, and the first thing that we'll all recognise is that it's becoming, from a marketing perspective, very much a virtual world. And as a firm, you need to up your game and skills when it comes to video conferencing, websites, digital marketing. Perhaps you were thinking about becoming more digitally savvy before March. Now you don't have a choice. And if your firm doesn't have the expertise in using online collaboration platforms for client calls, webinars, email messaging, customer relationship management platforms, you are officially behind the curve now. Your prospects, your clients, your staff still, obviously still a lot working from home. We're all relying on these digital channels for education and communication. So now's the time to train your team on becoming more, I guess, professional online and digital savvy in working with probably multiple platforms so that you can really engage with your clients on their preferred choice. I think also recognise that trust and confidence is in short supply. So the pandemic's caused more people to question themselves. Some people have probably become a bit more anxious. Others are having a harder time making decisions. And risk is always on the minds of your clients and your potential clients. The best thing we can do really is start by asking our clients how they're doing. Many are overwhelmed as their business priorities have shifted. So what we want to be doing is listening to their pain, their frustrations, their challenges, and then listen more and show how we can help them. And of course, every pound is precious right now. So many of our prospects and clients are struggling to protect their cash flow. Many of their customers are probably slowing or stopping their payments to protect their own businesses. So buyers are going to have to see value before they release their pound notes to you. So we have to be a bit more creative in pricing, packaging and payment terms with professional services. So traditional versus virtual. For the last few years, professional firms have started to transition from what we see as traditional business models to more virtual and digital models. There wasn't a great deal of urgency, as we've discussed, but now that urgency is there. And this has really changed everything that we do. So let's look at how that's changed and what the new normal might be in terms of marketing tactics. My first priority to give you really is get seen and found. Yeah. And secondly, use research wherever possible as your content. So this is the move away from overselling messages now into providing educational content that your clients will engage with you. So let's just look at get seen and get found first. You need to spend, if you're not already, more time in search engine optimization. So if you're not showing up on page 1 of a Google search for your primary keywords, whatever they may be, then your articles and your web pages are just not being seen. If you're on page 2, you're not there. And even that might not be enough at the moment. So you need to spend time each week monitoring your keyword rankings. So prepare a list, yeah, and monitor them. And then try different tactics to move ahead. And as long as you're moving up, you're making progress. And ideally, your goal is to have your piece of content as the number 1 or 2 listing associated with a given keyword. Or even better, on Google, to own the answer box. And these are the owners of the how-to questions, which are the most searched phrase on Google globally. You know, how to claim R&D tax credits, you know, how to negotiate a commercial lease. And that answer box on Google, gives you that number 1 spot. And the way to get that is to have lots of FAQs on your website. So the more FAQ sections you can create on the pages of your website, the more likely you are to appear as that number 1 spot on the answer box. Invest more time on your content as well. So step back now and look at your content from your target audience's point of view. So is it benefits driven or features driven? Are you selling or are you educating? And what you need to be doing now is focus on pushing insights, not focus on pushing a sales message. So communicate your expertise, not just your name. And that most helpful content will always win. And conduct a blog audit. So if you're doing blogs, use your Google Analytics to see where the engagement potential is sitting within your blogs. Adjust your calls to action. Make sure that your blogs have got good links in there. Make sure that there's an easy way for readers of your blog to get in touch with you. So direct them to really good landing pages. And then think about building out segmented lists around targeted industries or roles or geography. So these are landing pages for very specific campaigns that you might be running, and sometimes known as squeeze pages. And by doing that, you will get your content more easily ranked on Google. And a squeeze page sits within your website, but hidden from the main navigation. But your squeeze page is full of content relating to the search. So, for example, if I said one of our squeeze pages or our campaigns is all about R&D tax credits, on that squeeze page we would have a guide, we would have a video, we would have a profile of the individual who is our R&D expert, their contact details, quick links maybe to something like Calendly so that you can make an appointment with that individual very quickly. And a similar thing if you take a legal point of view, you know, maybe somebody's looking for how to renegotiate a commercial lease. Your squeeze page needs a guide, a video, profile of the expert, lots of call to actions to get in touch with them. And by doing that, not only will Google rank you, but you're more likely to get the inquiry because you've made it easier for that person to see your expertise, and they'll engage very easily with that. LinkedIn is also great for re-establishing those kind of relationships. So if you've used LinkedIn advertising before, you'll be familiar with how this works in terms of putting a message onto an individual's newsfeed. Again, move away from very specific sales messages. Have something that makes them want to engage with you, which again could come back to a video, a guide, something that's a little bit more than just, you know, we're the experts. The other thing is creating a research study is a great way of creating engaging, relevant and informative position. So this is what I call the research wheel. And this shows that if you've created a piece of research, now that could be you've done a client survey or a survey generally to lots of businesses in your geography or in your specialist sector, and you've produced a nice report from that. This is how you can make really good use of that content. So yes, we can put social media posts out, which we could also use LinkedIn posts or LinkedIn advertising. We could make that available to clients as a produced report where they can benchmark themselves against the feedback, create blogs. It could be outreach potential, where you can encourage social influencers, journalists, guests, which might be experts in a particular field, to comment on this report. And then interviews, so podcasts, maybe with if you've done it as a survey, maybe with people that participated in the survey, get them to indicate if they'd be happy to do a podcast interview with you. And then you can create PDF downloads, you could run webinars, you can create videos, and you can do social media advertising. So a piece of research has massive reach potential. The biggest problem with research is getting it done in the first place. And what we've discovered over the last 6 months is that it doesn't have to be a 30-page report that's gone into lots of in-depth analysis that we've got back from business owners. We can do something as simple as an online survey. We can do something as simple as a video recorded discussion with a number of clients, and then use that video as the research. And I'll come on to explain a bit more about that later on. So it doesn't have to be difficult to create something that can make use of all of this media to get yourself out there. Okay. The other thing I would suggest is, if that seems too much of a task, what you can do is look at your own professional bodies who produce lots of research all the time. So maybe get in touch with, if you're accountants, obviously the ICAW, ACCA, what have they got available that you could put your own spin on? The Law Society, have they got research out there that you could use for your different service sectors? You could also consider investing in something called a YouGov survey. So what this is, YouGov surveys go out all the time, and you'll often see them as part of a news report. You know, the latest YouGov survey shows, 8 out of 10 cats prefer whiskers, or whatever it might be. But a YouGov survey costs about £2,000 to do, and YouGov put that out and then give you the results of that to make best use of. And we did that recently with a legal firm who had a very specialist sector, which had a reach into some levels of public engagement, and we did a YouGov survey. And we've managed to use the whole research wheel with that information to create a wave of PR, wave of social media content, and in turn some new clients off the back of doing YouGov. So if there's budget that allows you to do that, then explore YouGov surveys maybe as a way of doing that. So just by way of example, you could ask YouGov to do a survey of business owners in Birmingham, how they survived lockdown, where are they now, where do they see the future, and then use the data that comes back from that YouGov survey to create your research. Now, I've got a question here from Stuart. Hi, Stuart. Can you explain a squeeze page? Yes, I can. So on your website, you've obviously got lots of pages of content, and I'm going to take, I'm going back to my example of renegotiating commercial leases just by way of example. So probably on your website, you've got a page on there that talks about your commercial property services. It will talk about all the different things that you can do, but it won't focus specifically on the renegotiation of commercial leases. So if you're running a campaign to say, well, lots of business owners might be looking at doing this at the moment, your squeeze page is a separate landing page that has all of this content I've talked about, which could be a guide to renegotiating that lease. It could be a profile of the individual that's the expert within your firm that does this. We might have a video that talks about the kind of tips and traps of renegotiating and why you need an expert to help you. And that page sits on your domain, sits on your website, but it's hidden from the main navigation. And you'll only get to it when you search on Google for how to renegotiate a commercial lease. Yeah. And by doing that, they may land on your website, but we hope that Google caches that really valuable content and takes them straight to this page where they can get all of their information. So you can look across your firm and say, right, here's 4 or 5 services that lend themselves really well to a digital campaign, and we'll put a squeeze page in place to maximise what we're getting from a Google search or from a Google pay-per-click or from a LinkedIn advert. Okay, so moving on from that, now it's time to have some recognition of the most effective ways to get in front of your potential clients, bearing in mind that referrals might just be enough at the moment. So these latest research in terms of how buyers first look for a solution to address a business challenge. So 66% doing a general web search, 48% read an article or a blog post, 42% download a piece of content, 35% will listen to an expert speak on a topic. Now, that could be a video, could be a podcast, could be a live webinar. And then 30%-ish will always go to asking for a referral first. So you can see the shift here in terms of, rather than ask for the referral first, I'll do a web search and then I'll see how much expertise they've got. And this is where your blog content or your videos, webinars come into play. So you want to be where they're looking. So you know who you want to reach, you know what you want to tell them. Pre-March, you probably had great success in delivering that to them. So what's changed? Well, the thing that's changed is state of mind and how that message is now delivered. So messages and presentations that used to be delivered in conferences or events, on the phone or in person, obviously, not easy to do that at the moment. And it's quite hard to have a meaningful conversation using what we would consider traditional methods. And on top of that, people are beset by a host of distractions as well. Obviously, when we were in lockdown, that could have been educating their children, etc. So you can see why video and online conferencing has become so important. And I now see this as a valuable tool to quickly build relationships and trust. Yeah. Be aware that your prospect or client may be a bit overwhelmed with webinars as well. And I've become less, I said bothered isn't the right word, but less focused on how many have we got signed up for this webinar, because we're seeing more traction now on doing a live webinar and then creating an on-demand version, and the on-demand version is probably getting downloaded and utilised 5 times the actual live webinar. So this kind of trust multiplier in doing this kind of marketing, don't worry too much about the actual live engagement that you get. So digital brand strategies, implementing social media, webinars, video, blogs, online advertising, groups and online conferences, kind of moving us away now from things like networking, print, direct mail, cold calling and print advertising and the traditional association trade shows. Now, I think they'll come back at some point, but never, I don't believe, at the level that we were seeing this time last year. So getting digital savvy now is hugely important. Oh, this is the slide I was looking for earlier. This is the answer box on Google, and this is where, come back to the squeeze page conversation. So I've just put in a suggested search to Google, and this is the answer box that you get when you put that kind of search in. And what you want to be is having your content in that in this FAQ section. Okay, so use technology. Just a few ideas, really. Could you create a client portal on your website and fill it with digital content in lots of shapes and forms? So video, podcasts, presentation, guides. Look at using technology, and particularly your website, to create a special experience for your clients. Can you leverage your subject matter, your experts in video and online formats? So please make sure that those individuals get some good media and presentation training, but leverage their expertise and put it into this digital format of video or podcasts. Think virtual for all of your deliverables, and you need probably to try and use the same content in different channels rather than just saying, well, we'll just use LinkedIn for this, or we'll just use a Google pay-per-click campaign for this. So Can we create a virtual workshop? Can we get some guest speakers in? Can we provide one-to-one consulting over an online video collaboration platform? Can we do a series of videos, a sort of Q&A series that links to a specific set of services? And also accelerate your social networking. So many firms are building more personalised relationships now through LinkedIn and Facebook than they ever were before. And try some digital-only services. And I come back to this how-to videos as being a good source of that digital-only service. So if you're an accountant, for example, you might want to have, you know, how to use Xero, a how to use Receipt Bank, yeah, how to not abuse a director loan account. Yep. So all of those types of video content can be short, sharp, 2-3 minute videos that create these virtual workshop experience for your clients and potential clients. And there are 4 pillars of trust now. So when I talk about 4 pillars of trust, what I'm looking at here is building these pillars of trust as part of our marketing plan. So our first pillar is creating familiarity, and this comes down to being recognised, sharing contacts, and creating an environment where your prospective client or existing clients becomes a member of your group. The second pillar is all about having roles and credentials that are trustworthy. So demonstrate that you have the right skill set and formal credentials to be credible. Third pillar is all about recognising the other person's challenge. So ensure that you have the empathy and industry perspective to understand. And the message that we want to give out on that third pillar of trust is that you get it. Yeah, you understand what their business is about and what challenges they might be facing. And then the fourth pillar is all about being reliably helpful. So providing helpful insight, be a reliable partner, be honest, be realistic. Yeah. And building those 4 pillars across every aspect of your marketing plan now creates that sincere messaging and empathy that you want to be giving. So let's have a look at the marketing plan in a bit more detail in terms of activities. So I've put on here as my first activities all about staying in touch. So this is about contacting your best clients, call to show that you care, add value, and then have regular check-in calls with those clients where we can offer ongoing help, ideas, value. And this is all about how are you doing, how can I help you? And I think every professional firm now should have a structured client contact plan that does just this. Yeah, and this doesn't have to be, you know, just your best clients, you know, not even just your top 25 by fee income. This is breaking it down into that kind of A and B sector of clients and having this regular structured program of contacting them. And maybe even contact former clients and prospective clients. So maybe a call to somebody that you spoke to 6 months ago. They didn't engage with you at that point, but a call to show them and ask the questions, you know, how are they doing? Show that care and concern. And if it's sincere, the contact will always be appreciated. And potentially what you're showing them is what they're not getting elsewhere. So an action, call at least 1 contact every day per partner. Yeah, a few minutes will yield big benefits and help you to stay top of mind. So that would be the first part of my marketing plan. The second one is all about creating a specialist niche. Now, I know that many of you will already have specialist sectors that you work with. There are opportunities now, I believe, because we don't necessarily have to stay local, to create more specialist niches. Just by way of example, this is a report that was produced by EY back in May, I think. And what this does, this particular report, is give lots of detail on how various sectors may or may not be impacted by COVID. And it isn't a point in time of how they're impacted, you know, as of May. This looks at a very long-term outlook for each of those niche sectors. And if anybody would like a copy of this report, it's about 40 pages long. Drop me an email. I'll happily share it with you. But what it does do is give lots of information about the impact on sectors, and it actually gives lots of useful information about sectors that are interesting ones maybe to develop some expertise in. Now, if you're going to choose a sector, you need to get slightly famous in that sector. So this is about contributing to their sector journals. This is about joining their professional bodies. Most professional bodies have an affiliate membership scheme, and then creating content just for them and socialising with them digitally. So, for example, if you want to specialise in, let's find a nice sector, so the transport sector, for example, then you've got professional bodies associated with the transport sector that have really good affiliate schemes. They have their own newsletters, they have their own print publications, they allow affiliate members to contribute to their blogs, they allow affiliate members to speak and sponsor some of their virtual events. So if you want to say, you know, we are specialists in the transport sector, you need to get closer to those professional bodies and engage with them, because that gives you the access, obviously, to their members, and that's where you want to be. I would also suggest maybe, you know, that's just an example there of a firm that specialise in charities and how they put together some virtual events purely for charities. So this is all about pivoting a charity. You could also look to connecting to your local geography. And we've done this campaign with a couple of clients, which is where we've looked at local landmarks in and around their catchment area, and then created some e-shots, some social media posts that are all geared towards their local geography. And it's been really interesting how people have engaged with this. Some have found it quite fun, and others, where their existing accountant or solicitor has gone a bit dark on them over the COVID period and not shared lots of information, have said, look, you know, these guys are local, we should talk to them. So think about getting a bit clever with using references to your local geography. And I also mentioned that what we're trying to do is give reassurance now to potential clients that we're the right people to be with. And this I called our Sleeping Director series. So again, this was social media posts and e-shots where we encourage clients to allow us to take a photo of them asleep. That was an interesting one. But nobody sleeps more soundly than our reassured clients. And the message we were giving out there on the reverse of this, or with the post, were messages from the client about how they had helped them through the COVID crisis, whether it was helping them with the retention scheme, job retention scheme, whether it was helping them access loans, whether it was helping them with redundancies, shorter hour contracts, etc. So this message of reassurance is something that you can now get all those happy clients to talk about for you, and then use it quite cleverly on social media and in your e-marketing. Okay. Another aspect to include in your plan is the raft of new entrepreneurs that we expect to see. Now, call them new entrepreneurs or corporate refugees, whatever you will. But the predictions are, and we're already seeing it, is there will be a raft of new entrepreneurs, particularly in the tech sector. So if you want to capture that market, then you need to be seen as the go-to firm for those new entrepreneurs. We found Facebook to be a really good platform for reaching out and advertising to new entrepreneurs. As with any digital marketing, you kind of have to sort the wheat from the chaff a little bit in terms of the responses that you get, but we've had some really good inquiries come through from Facebook advertising targeting new tech entrepreneurs. So maybe think about building that into your marketing plan. Also think about how you can digitally engage with some of the national awareness days that happen over a given year. There's a website called awareness.org, which will give you all of this information. And certainly for our accountant clients, we hooked onto National Payroll Week, which was the 7th to the 11th of September, so a couple of weeks ago. And what we did there is, rather than selling our payroll services, we really celebrated how payroll became key workers to a lot of businesses throughout lockdown, throughout managing the job retention scheme, and still are actually. So we didn't go out there with overt sales messages. We went out there with these messages of celebrating how payroll had really contributed to business over that time. And again, some great engagement on that. I mentioned earlier about creating some research. And one way of creating that research is to try and set up you can do it on Zoom, on Teams, but try and encourage maybe 2 or 3 clients to come and have a virtual chat with you and record it. And we've done this a couple of times now, where we've had a mixture of businesses as part of this client panel. And we've talked about, what were the biggest business challenges they faced when we entered lockdown, did you furlough, et cetera. We then looked at, where they are today and how they're dealing with where they are at this moment in time, but also a chat about the future and how they're going to prepare for the next 6 months. What challenges would they face? Some clients have chosen to do this live, which has been great. Others, we've done it as a recorded session, and then we've used it on our digital marketing platforms afterwards. The interesting thing with this is we had one client who had somebody along from the music business, and they had lots of following themselves on their own social media channels, and they very kindly shared the video, which ended up with over 5,000 further shares from that one video. So again, going back to that research wheel, encouraging guests to share content or contribute to content can make a big difference to the reach that you get. And these are easy to do. If you say, I need an hour, I'm sure everybody's got 3 or 4 clients that'd be really happy to do this. Run a client panel event and then use it on your social media channels. Okay, so really just to round off, talking about the future, I think the pandemic has made us focus on helping and advising clients. I think we're all doing that. Creating better relationships with clients and greater interaction through virtual platforms like Zoom, like Teams. I think fees are becoming hard to compete with, and what we have to do now is justify our prices by demonstrating the value that we offer. Now, that has always been the case. I think we've got to find more innovative ways now of showing that we actually do it, and the best way to do that is to get your clients to say it for you. We need to embrace cloud technology, and as with anything, business is about getting more clients, to increase the frequency with which they spend with you, to retain them, and to get them to refer. And just keeping those 4 pointers in mind, I think, with everything that you're doing in marketing at the moment, is really important. And again, recognising that we can get clients from any part of the world now, so niche and specialise wherever you can. So I hope that's been helpful. Got a couple of people who want a copy of the EY report, which I'm more than happy to supply. I have got a couple of questions here, and please use the Q&A if you'd like to ask anything before we finish. One question is, what percentage of our turnover should we allocate to the marketing budget? That's an interesting one. Now, I'm going to talk about this with a business owner's head on or a marketing head on. I think the rule of thumb should be anywhere between 1.5% and 3%. I think most clients that we act for are somewhere in that bracket. So 1.5% at the lower end, 3% at the higher end. Obviously, things have changed massively, and we've been moving budget from what would traditionally be spent on events and face-to-face type activity onto things like Google pay-per-click, onto LinkedIn advertising, etc. So there is a shift in budget. And actually, for a lot of clients, it's a reduction in their marketing spend because the digital platforms are far more cost effective than doing lots of events. And I've got another question here from Rufus. Hi, Rufus. Any hot tips on how to make sure our people do it rather than just agreeing is a good, yeah, that's always the challenge, isn't it? You know, actually getting people to do it. I think incentives, internal incentives with marketing objectives are still relevant, are still great. And if you can set some very specific objectives, playing to people's strengths, because not everybody is good at doing virtual presentations, not everybody feels comfortable preparing an article, might not be that great a writer, but everybody's got a strength of some sort. And what we need to do is have a look at the people that we've got working for us and play to those strengths and praise. You know, they do something great, we need to make sure everybody else knows about it. Okay, well, that brings me dead on time to the end of the presentation. I hope you found it useful. I will make a recording of this available on our website. And again, if anybody else would like a copy of the report, please do let me know and I will send it out to you. Thank you very much.